Today we're going to be talking about project A16, the aluminum airfoil section that you've already done the paperwork on and come out with your calculations. We're going to take those calculations to develop a list of components and then lay them out onto a sheet of aluminum. Cut the pieces, bend the pieces, drill, rivet the pieces, finish your project, and hand it in. The first thing we need to do is to put together a list of components. Now this list that I'm showing on the board right now is actually for a 16-inch relieving unit, or relieving attachment for a head-end unit of another aircraft component. But I just wanted you to get the idea of how the list is put together. You'd normally have a stock number, which would be your part number, the name of what the piece is on the design sheet, and so forth. I'd have a commentary on how many items it needs, or how many of that particular component is needed, and then it would tell you where to find the specifications for it if there's any different requirement. In the case of what we're doing, a simple list will suffice, stating what size piece you need for that particular piece of sheet metal, how many of those, and so forth, down to the number of rivets you're going to be using. Once we've gotten out to the sheet metal lab and you have your list, we're going to start out with a 48 by 20 inch section of sheet metal that you're going to be laying out. I'm going to be setting you up into teams to cut this piece from a larger sheet of aluminum. Now the aluminum sheet is 4 feet wide to start with by about 8 feet long. So what I'm going to have you do in teams of 2 is measure it down 20 inches, lay out a line, and then cut a piece. This is a picture of the chopped piece that is 20 inches wide by 48 inches long. If you notice, the grain of the material goes along the short side. Take this into consideration when you're laying out your components. We've now taken that long piece and cut it down to make a square, or just rather a rectangle, 24 inches by 20 inches inside. 20-inch side is again parallel with the grain direction of the sheet metal. On this panel, you're going to be laying out your component parts. In this picture you can see we've taken the top section of the panel on the narrow side and made two 10-inch by 9-inch panels. This very evenly and usefully uses all the metal in that section. We've then made a space and put in the four 3.5-inch squares that we'll be using. Below that section you will see the long panels that will form the side rails and the wing spar, as well as the doubler plate for your repair patches. All the pieces that you have laid out on here will be used. There will be some scrap, just be sure to indicate it. Once you've gotten everything laid out, we're going to cut the pieces. You're going to start by cutting the long lines. I call these the major cuts. First you're going to separate the top and bottom piece from the main body of the section. Then you're going to separate the middle section, which has the 3.5-inch squares and the 1x6 panel, as well as some scrap. And that will leave you with the two side panels, the rear spar, and your doubler. So that we'll be able to take this and work from there. Once you've made the major cuts, you'll be able to start on the minor cuts. Once you've completed the major cuts, start on your minor cuts. Separate the two 10 by 9 panels. Separate all the small panels and the 1x6 piece from the scrap. And then separate your side channels, your spar. Do not forget to cut down your spar to the proper length, as well as the 5.25-inch square and the leftover scrap. The scrap can get thrown into the gray bin near the sheet metal shear, and then you can start laying out your pieces. The class mascot, Miss Ellie, will now sing to you in her own crooning voice while you lay out your panels. Don't forget proper edge distance, and to make sure that you work from the center line out on the side panels. We will be going over that, however, shortly.